Samurai Success community, welcome back to the Scroll. It is the first episode of 2026. I am here, as always, with CEO David Olcott. How are you, sir?
Good, fine, sir. Ryan, always good to see you, baby.
Yeah, I've had a personal great start to the year. I got myself back in the I Am studio. What a blessed experience that was. Yeah, really, really grateful to go through that process with you. And I know how much of an impact it had on me last year, the first time. So I'm excited to see where this takes me. And yeah, thank you for your coaching. Thank you for your guidance. What a great way to be able to start the conversation.
Yeah, and I agree, sir. As you evolve into this next phase, you saw our interaction, or the amount of corrections that we had to do were really coming from an internal source rather than the external source. And that's really the deep dive that we've been talking about, finding that internal master, someone that you can trust, and that trusting source is always with you, kind of
Mm.
stuff. And it's such an amazing feeling of purpose and fulfillment that we're going to talk about today, that really comes into place when you know that you've got the answers within you and it's always been within you, and you start trusting yourself again and you start applying that trust in this physical plane. Well, much to talk about today.
Yeah, that's the fun side. In December, we launched our SOFI assessment. So we invited people to come in and take an assessment, which really helps people understand where they were located on this journey of Swords of Illumination. And I'm going to read out some numbers. So in the first month alone, 78 people took their profile across 22 countries. It was amazing to be able to sit through, look at those lists, and see that the profiles had reached people all around the world. Effectively, the assessment contains 20 identity based questions, and they result in one of four profiles, which we're calling sophisticated slavery, identity confusion, emerging authenticity, and conscious creator. Now, today's episode is purposely tailored to the responses of those 78 people, because the most common profile we're seeing is emerging authenticity. Now, the common characteristics of the emerging authenticity group of people is they have a clear sense of their authentic self in some areas of their life. They've done some of the work, they've got a clear sense of who they are in some areas, but there's still some residual programming that's creating resistance in some areas. Success mostly feels aligned, but it does include some of that emptiness. And there's an understanding of this identity work, which is as you would expect with this conscious community, but what there is a lack of is systemic integration. So that's a great description of what it seems like to be within the emerging authenticity category. But the number one question of all 20, where there seems to be most suffering, should we say, is this question number 4, and it's all about how connected do you feel to your life's purpose or deeper calling. And David, it pains me to say that the majority of our community feel no sense of purpose or direction. How does that make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel aware, because that's what you're feeling on the entire planet.
Mm.
There's a lot of folks not clear about who they are. And I will tell you from my own personal experience, it's very difficult, if not impossible, right? Everything's possible. I get it. But it's very, 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 very rare to be very clear about what you want in this lifetime when you don't know who you are.
Mm.
Those two things are so tied together. And so much of us are trained, programmed, if you will, to chase that first thing first, which is what I want, what I want, what I want. And the key behavioral indicator that there's something missing in that sequence is that that want keeps changing. Or it, and by the way, in a consumer marketplace, why wouldn't we program our society to do this? I mean, forget about, the five families and all this conspiracy stuff. This is just human nature, guys. We got to get back to this. Forget about all these other people who could be using this stuff against us, and we got to start using this stuff for ourselves. And this is what this opportunity is. That's what SOFI really brings to the table is, do you really want to get away from all those people influencing you? Then you've got to find a new source of influence that is located here in this physical plane, connected to the other spiritual plane for sure. But you've got to be able to start trusting you, because you can't give something away you don't possess. And if you don't trust you, then any source information that's coming from whatever name you want to give that, the universe, God, the matrix, the ether, whatever source, the realm
Mm,
of pure potentiality, if you don't trust you, when you get a download from that information, you're not going to apply it because you're going to hear it. It's going to be beautiful. You're going to get excited about it, but you won't trust yourself to apply it. And without
mm,
that trust, knowing who you really are, you're not going to get to the results you say you want to get after.
mm. Mm. So today's topic is how to discover your mission and purpose, and it's one of the swords of illumination. It's one of the teachings that Yoshi goes through. I won't give away the sequencing just yet. We'll save that for a bit later in the conversation. But why is it one of very few? Um, One of the things you've been talking about recently is one of those conditions required for success and fulfillment, and maybe we can come at it from that angle. Why is mission and purpose one of those core requirements to live this truly authentic and fulfilled life?
So, a very important mentor, teacher, coach in my life said a quote to me that I think really frames this. Success without fulfillment is ultimate failure.
Mm,
Now, just take that in for a minute. Success, most people want to think about success as let's just focus on one thing called money for right now. There's multiple levels of success. I get it, but let's just focus on this. I will tell you that we meet people every single day. They're extraordinary. They're multimillionaires, well above the one percenters. I mean, we work with these folks, and yet they're not coming to us to be able to make more money. They know how to do that. What they're looking to be able to do is have a sense of fulfillment. So the missing component in that success without the fulfillment side is ultimate failure. And they're feeling that. So how do you combine success and fulfillment? Well, fulfillment is all about purpose. Purpose is another word for why. Why am I doing all this hard work? Why am I working for this company? Why do I have my own company? Why do I deal with these employees? Why? If you don't have a clear why, then the why question in your programming actually is taking over. It's presupposition. What I mean by that is when you ask the question with a why in it, hey, why did you wear that shirt today? Immediately, you have to get into this place of going back to the past, thinking about an action about why you wore that shirt today. I did an action in the past. I chose the shirt. And then I've got to defend why I put that shirt on.
mm,
So when you're asking why questions to most people, they're mostly rhetorical and they're presuppositional. Even in your own head, why can't I lose weight? Presupposes you can't lose weight and guarantees, as long as you keep asking that question, that you won't lose weight. And you could
mm.
apply that to every facet of your, why does this keep happening to me? That's presupposing that this keeps happening to you, and it's convincing your subconscious brain that it's going to continue to happen to you.
Oh, the irony.
It's like it's this doom loop that happens. But Dave, I'm just talking about what's reality. Well, I think we've had a couple of episodes in the past that you might want to go back to and talk about real reality, right? And some of the illusions we're dealing with. Because if we're really here as the dreamer, we really do get to create that reality. And if that reality that you're creating creates that presuppositional question of the why, then you're just recreating what's already happened. You got to
Mm.
think outside of that. So, all right, Dave, now that resonates with me. It makes logical sense. But how do you do it? Well, you've got to be able to understand that aligning your goals, like we've talked about in the past, with who you say you are is that fulfillment. That's the connection. So, the same thing with a goal. Now we're talking about a large goal for your entire life. That goal is called a mission and purpose statement. It's the big picture of what you want to accomplish while you're here. As a matter of fact, your identity is who you say you are. Your mission and purpose is how you're going to apply that who into this physical realm. So that's the connection for that. And it's an incredibly important connection. And when you're missing one of those elements, fulfillment is highly, highly unlikely. Um, those are conditions that have to exist, we found from successful people, that have to exist to be able to create that fulfillment that we always say we're after.
Mm. Who is this a topic for, is this for a particular person at a particular point of their life? Is this a universal thing? Is this something that you can do at any phase of your life?
So, from a general standpoint, as long as you're a human being, this will work for you. But let's kind of get that down now. Because, by the way, there's some aliens on this planet. I don't know if you've met any of them. I have. I'm sometimes wondering if I'm one of those aliens, just to be sure about that, right? But we won't go there today. The other part of it is that if you're a human being, you've got to have this next couple of elements. First of all, you've got to be committed to making this change. Something in your life has got to get you to a place where you're like, okay, I'm done with this. I've had enough of this. No more. You will no longer tolerate that kind of thing. Now, you're going to have to get to some degree of that. Some of us don't need that huge thing I just talked about. We need some taste of it. Some of us need the extreme part of that. But you've got to be committed to making the change, because right now, the things that are going on in your life, the results you're getting are coming from your behaviors, the chain of command, and your belief systems. Until you change that, those results and your destiny will not change over the long term. In the short term, yes. Matter of fact, I can go touch the stove and instantaneously, I don't want to touch the stove again if it's hot. But I then, part of my programming, I know this is going to sound weird, but part of my programming was, did that really burn my fingers? Did it really hurt? And you see this behavior in businesses where people get out of pain and they go right back to the old behaviors that put them into pain. Now, maybe I'm saying that like it shouldn't be happening. This is happening. It happens for me. I found the secret to being able to get out of that hamster loop, get out of the mouse wheel. I found it in this way. And that's why Swords of Illumination exists, to be able to remind me of those things. When I remember who I am, because I've self-created it, and I connect anything I'm doing, including my mission and purpose, to that, I start creating that hub of potential fulfillment. And then all my success comes from that hub right there in the book, right? This hub, and there's these spokes on the wheel, the 10 categories of balance. But that hub is about your identity and your mission and purpose. When you have that as a center part, everything stems from that. And in the book, as in my own life, and the people who have really gone into this program are starting to find that decisions become really easy, Ryan. Just things they would have struggled with mightily. I mean, the stuff that keeps you up at night, the stuff that haunts you in your dreams, all the stuff that creates so much stress and frustration and really is killing us. There's a way out of that. And the way out of that is to create that hub of identity and mission and purpose, and then decide and take action on only those things that support that hub. You have that kind of connection. You have all the conditions relative to being able to get fulfillment.
As always, I have my trusty copy of Swords of Illumination right next to me. And it really, as you were speaking, it really reminds me of some interactions Yoshi had as he was developing as samurai, as he was going through, particularly the interactions, I think, with Haru, his friend, and he's caused him some harm. And as he's learning and growing, he's equipped with these Swords of Illumination, which pose, if you haven't read the book, go and read it. But if you have, you'll know that each of the swords have a question. And this question that Yoshi is contemplating actually helps him make different decisions in the moment, because he's using a different guide, shall we say. What is it about questions that reveal mission and purpose?
So, in book 2 that we're writing right now, there's some powerful things around understanding how questions actually focus you on things, because questions create focus. Focus determines your physiology. Physiology determines how you feel, and how you feel ultimately creates how you behave. So this formula that we're talking about here is so important. It's a staple of samurai success. It's one of the most important intellectual properties that we have, because this is how we understand ourselves and how we understand people so clearly. So if you really want to get to the place of knowing thyself, understanding that chain of command is so important. And we not only share that with you, teach you, remind you of that in the SOFI program, but it's going to be part of the 2-book series. And that's where it combines. So questions really create focus. So let's say, for example, you go into a party and that party is really loud. You can't really hear a lot of things, one of those loud parties, and everybody's dancing, have a good time. But you notice that over in the corner, your left-hand side here, there's a couple that's not really getting along, right? And you're like, whoa, what's going on there? You kind of look at your friends and they're showing you around, but for whatever
Mm.
reason, that thing just keeps pulling you over to that thing. Now, if you focus on that couple who's not having a good time, they're arguing, it's clear, you can't hear what they're saying, but they're definitely not having a good time. If you focus on them for that party that you're at and you leave the party, what's your experience of the entire party? Oh, Dave, that wasn't a good place. It was kind of a bad vibe. All kinds of, people were just really angry with each other. We take that one focus and we generalize it into the entire experience.
Mm.
We do this really consistently. That's, by the way, if you've ever driven down the highway and all of a sudden there's this accident on the side of the road and, all of a sudden there's this jam and stuff like this, people are called rubbernecking here in America, right? I don't know how it happens in the UK or anything, but what is causing us to do that is because people are slowing down because they were so focused on that as opposed to being focused and safe of not creating another accident, running into the car behind or in front of them kind of stuff because they're so busy rubbernecking, right? So guys, these are part of these conditions that we're kind of addicted to, that our programming just pulls us into this because that programming says you're supposed to look what happened, look what happened. So you go into that party, that whole thing is happening on the left-hand side. And by the way, now you start the party all over again. You walk in the same party, and there's still that couple on the left-hand side. But now on the right-hand side, you notice that there's a couple having a really good time. I don't know what it is, man. It's just a really good energy, but maybe it's a first date, but they are really connected. You probably shouldn't focus on them too much because they're having a good time. But if you focus on them during that whole party, what's your experience when you walk away from the party? Oh, Dave, the energy was so good. The vibe. Okay, here's my point. In the party of your life, there's going to always be that left and right perspective. There's
Mm.
always going to be the good happening in your life and the not what might be called good. But your choice of focus
Mm.
is what determines your experience. What causes that focus is your questions, the questions you ask. And they're so habitual and diabolical sometimes. You don't even know that you're asking those questions. But your belief systems and your value systems are actually driving those questions. So it's all tied together. And that's what the chain of command really lets us be able to sit down with a client and really diagnose where they're located. And that assessment is a really powerful way for us to help our client even before we get into a conversation or coaching or anything else that might happen with that. We know where you're located. And because we know where you're located, we now know the steps to be able to get you where you want to go. But until you change that programming, Ryan, as you know and have experienced, brother, Ryan, for the last couple of years, you've done a remarkable job with this. Until you make that change, nothing can change. No matter how much your ego is, I got this. I know what I'm talking about. You've experienced it with me. You thought, a couple of years ago, you were like, oh, I'm on top of, whoa, I've got some work to do. And now that you've done the work, it's creating a very different environment, different world, and different experiences.
Yeah, thank you for that acknowledgement. And, I come from a background in UK policing, and I think the minute you stop asking those questions around who am I, what am I here to do, what's my mission and purpose, you start to just assume that you know the answers to those questions.
Mm.
And so much the assumption becomes, well, I am my job, I am my rank, I am my performance, I am my results, I am my title, I am my beauty. There's a number of external where I'm a parent, I am a coach, I'm a CEO, all of these roles and results that we seem to conflate with our mission and purpose. And I think what you're suggesting here is that that might lead us down to a different type of life experience should we hold them as our mission and purpose.
Yeah, and just to be really clear, have your identity clearly connected with your mission and purpose, and then respond and react to the world in that way. The life of fulfillment you're going to have, Ryan, is extraordinary.
Mm.
Do it the other way, which most of us are currently doing, where we're not really clear who we are, or if we're clear who we are, but we don't have a clear mission statement and they're not aligned, then anything we apply to that is only going to create success without fulfillment. The fulfillment formula, if you will, is about tying these things together and knowing even if you don't get the results you thought you were after, it's still in alignment with who you say you are. And that's the whole reason you're really here anyway. So it provides the opportunity to truly create that level of confidence that you begin to trust yourself. You stay with trusting yourself. You're now in a place of really trusting yourself that no one can talk you out of it, including you. And that's that life of fulfillment that everyone talks about, but there is a process and a formula to be able to get there. This isn't just some strange, abstract concept. This is something that is actually has science behind it and a process to be able to help you get there.
Yes. And so we've titled this How to Discover Your Mission and Purpose. And paradoxically, step one, because we're super practical here, we want to leave people with a path and steps. Path one is to discover and create your identity, which is not where people might have thought we might have ended up, but that is the great invitation of Swords of Illumination. It's the great invitation of the identity assessment. So, David, maybe you can leave us with a few encouraging words for people if they haven't taken their identity assessment, why they might spend 10 minutes of their time going through that process.
So let's reverse it. Let's imagine I gave you the steps to be able to build a mission and purpose. And by the way, the steps for building a mission and purpose are going to be almost identical to building your identity statement, because this thing isn't, you're not discovering who you are, you're creating who you are. And once you understand that, then your mission and purpose is a self-created creation based upon the foundation of your identity. So let's imagine you don't do your identity work, and I give you the steps to be able to do your mission and purpose. Until that alignment happens, and you're missing one big component of that alignment. So I've worked really hard on the mission and purpose, and Dave, it's not working. It's not designed to work that way, guys. Mm-hmm. There's this alignment that has to happen. So if you really want to get to the end of the conveyor belt, what really produces the results in the quickest and fastest period of time, then working on that identity work is the first part. That's where that assessment comes in. I'm so excited about this tool, if you will, to give people perspective, like, hey, where am I really located and really creating this identity? Now, here's the fun part. When you do that assessment, it's really important that you are really brutally honest with yourself. Because to tell you the truth, we've seen some numbers and some folks on there that even done it, well-meaning. I think they were playing with it a little bit because we've seen 90s and 95s. Listen, I've been doing this for 30 years. I think I might have to hire them of a coach if that's really accurate. I'm having some fun with it because I will tell you that getting into those percentiles, I don't know if most people aren't going to fit into those things after 450 to 50,000 people. I will tell you, a lot of you people usually think they're located a lot further ahead than they actually are. So brutally honest with yourself. Yes, we're going to see those results of that, but we don't know who you are. This is more for you. If you want to take that next step, which we highly recommend, is to then sit down with me and personally with me and actually go through that assessment to find out where you're really located and the actual next steps to be able to get you from where you are to where you say you want to go. That's the invitation that we're providing with this discovery call. So really, please take advantage of that.
Love that. And during that call, so there's people that they've taken the process, they've gone through, they have this map in front of them, they have a bit of an understanding of where they're located. What might they experience in that telephone call with you, David?
So we're going to take your individual assessment, and I'm really going to just ask you some elicitating questions about how did you come up with that? Tell me some of your past life experiences in this lifetime, if you will. And then I want you to see within that phone call the connection between how that identity statement, as you currently either accepted it from other people, created it yourself, or been living someone else's life, how that's affecting your results, so that you can get a clear understanding that changing that is the beginning of changing your life, your experiences, your results in this place. So just having that connection. If you already know that, then it's just about taking the next steps necessary and seeing if we might be a good fit in helping you with those steps, but creating a game plan about how to get from where you are to the next level. Because that self-created identity means you have the opportunity to stop living someone else's life who programmed you, your parents, the church, society, have programmed you to live their life, and now start living a life that really is designed the way you want to be able to do it, which then leads to the potential possibility of fulfillment. Living someone else's life, Ryan, I've never seen it happen where someone is truly fulfilled by someone else's programming. So,
and if they're not ready to take those steps,
first step,
get yourself a copy of Swords of Illumination, Amazon bestseller, full of 5-star reviews. I can't speak about it highly enough. Even just reading some of the pages in my back garden one summer, I'm sat there in tears, and I'm healing relationships that I never knew needed healing. And it's a living transmission. It's a wonderful book. It's an immersive story, and I highly recommend. The link to the book and the assessment and the show notes and the discovery call are all in the show notes. And yeah, David, next month we hope to be able to sit here in the scroll and talk about a new assessment that we're developing
Yes.
for business owners. Don't give too much away, but maybe you can give us a bit of a teaser as what we're cooking up in the background to really serve our business owners within our community.
Yeah, so really excited about this next step, which is really focusing on. So the one thing is called our product, if you will, for the SOFI program, Swords of Illumination. That's really designed to understand that there's three P's in our algorithm when it comes to business ownership, right? Moving you from self-employed to business ownership. What does that mean, Dave? It means that if you're self-employed, it means you are responsible for the quality control and profitability of the business. You can't leave your business for any period of time without those two things being affected. As a business owner, and that's what we really are specialists at, is helping you get from self-employed to business owner, is that you can actually take 3 months off at a time and what? Not have it affect quality control and profitability. I mean, that's a dream for most of the entrepreneurs that we work with. And once they see the pathway of actually how to do that, it's like, oh my
It's
God,
on.
now, yeah, it's on, right? And they're fully immersed and engaged. And that's when it gets fun. It takes a little bit of work to be able to get to that understanding, but that's really what our showcase presentation is about and the process. So really understanding that this assessment is going to give you an opportunity to be able to understand where you're located and how we might be a good fit. When it comes to the PQ, it's the same thing as the SOFI program. Commitment is your part. When you finally have had enough, and you'll get to a place, so we'll be here, that you're finally had enough of what you want to be able to tolerate this lifetime. And I really want to be able to do something different. And we're a company that's designed for that moment, that you are truly committed and we're a good fit. You put those together and it's rock and roll time.
Amazing. Look forward to bringing you more about that next time. If you've enjoyed this episode, you found it valuable, please do like, please do subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with someone within your personal network who would benefit from all the goodness that David and the team at Samurai Success put out into the world, all with a view of helping you be more fulfilled and successful in this lifetime, whether that be within your personal life, within your business life. And yeah, we look forward to spending time with you next time. David, any final thoughts from yourself before we wrap up?
I'm really looking forward to 2026. We're going to be jumping into lots of different things, like some of the, predictions we have for 2026, and we're going to talk about this like we did last year, kind of thing. But I will tell you that this really is an extraordinary year to start really getting prepared. And for those who do work on this work we're talking about, the opportunities are glorious and bountiful for sure. So let's get to work, people.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.